Where's my mic? Anyways, it's okay. Time to tell the story of my first restaurant. So it was when I had a couple more stories of my last job, but it was kind of boring, so I didn't bother. So we're just gonna skip to my first restaurant. So I put in a 3-month notice that I told them I was gonna quit, and then the whole thing, and then I quit. So the person who suggested that I make adobo for family meal, I dragged that person with me. So when I first opened, it was my mom. So this is gonna be the story of how the restaurant started. My mom and the business partner Sam, they both started a seafood market in Chinatown, and they've been open for about 5 years. In that 5-year period, they made enough money to start a second business. And Sam said he could cook Thai food, and I've eaten his food before. And I told him, don't open a restaurant. First of all, you can't cook very well, and running a seafood market is very different from running a restaurant. So I directly told them, do not open a restaurant. You don't know what they're doing. Anyways, they went and bought out this Chinese restaurant. They just walked in. The Chinese restaurant wasn't selling, but they just walked in there, and then they're like, oh, I like this place. I want to buy it. So, long story short, they bought the place for $250,000, the premium and all that stuff. And then they cleaned it up a little bit, and then they started functioning for about a year. And this 1 year that they were running was when I was 23 years old and I was still working for the other job. Anyways, within that 1 year period, they've managed to completely drive the business into the ground, because they used to be a Chinese restaurant, then they did a Thai restaurant. It was called Taste of Thai, and they would wake up at like 4 or 5 a.m., do the seafood market until like 2 p.m. or 3 p.m., and then go straight to the Thai restaurant and then work from 2 or 3 p.m. up until like 10 p.m. So they would basically work like 18 hours or whatever it is. They would work a ton, and it was them two and like one or two other, like a dishwasher and another cook or something. And yeah, nobody knew except the dishwasher knew how to do their job properly. So some days, because they were working 7 days a week for like 16, 17, 18 hours straight or whatever, some days they just wouldn't open. They would be like, we were too tired today, we're not gonna open. And then the problem with that is they're old school too. They don't go online and like update they don't have a website, they don't have anything. It's just the doors are open or they're not. And then they put on the hours, it says like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, blah 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 time dash blah 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 time. So they've listed that they're open every day. And the problem is, when they decided not to open, there would be people waiting around outside, be like, when are they coming? Why aren't they open yet? Or, stuff like that. Anyways, their business flopped. I put in my 3-month notice. I told her I'm gonna buy it. I'm gonna buy the business. And because I was basically trying to dig her out of a hole, because I saw her working so much, and she was working so much to break even, because the seafood market was making money, but then the restaurant was losing an equal amount of money. So they were working all these hours to break even, which is like, why would you work so much to not do well? So I said, I'll buy it, I'll take it over, I'll deal with it. And at this point, I've only been a line cook my whole life, so if I had the choice, I wouldn't have opened the restaurant that early and that young. But it's more of you're forced to do it, so just do it and figure it out. Like at that point, I didn't have an Instagram, I didn't have anything. And it was just from when I finished working at my other job, I had 1 week by myself, and all I did was clean the kitchen and like think of a menu while I was cleaning, and like clean more stuff and set up purveyor accounts so I could get produce, do Costco runs, all that stuff. And this was a Chinese restaurant for 30 something years, so it was really, really greasy and ugly. Like, we had red chairs, and then the tablecloth with the plexiglass on top of the tables. The fucking walls were pink with wallpaper, and then there's like Chinese ornaments and stuff all over the place. So it looked like a Chinese restaurant that looked half converted to a Thai restaurant that I was gonna do fancier food in. So it looked like a pop-up. So I don't know how much time I got left. Oh, it's only 5 minutes. Plenty of time. So I had 1 week to myself to clean and do whatever. And then, like I said, the other cook that worked with me at my previous job was supposed to come with me, and then she put her notice in, but we couldn't leave at the same time, so she left 1 week later. So when after my 1 week was over, and then she showed up on her first day, she said, "Okay, Kenny, what's the menu? What am I supposed to do?" And then I gave her this chicken scratch piece of paper, and I just wrote all the dishes on there, and I was like, "Here's the menu, just do what I say." No, she was like, "Where's the recipes?" And I was like, "Just do what I say, we'll figure it out." So you didn't have any systems, we didn't have a ticket machine. I mean, we still don't have a ticket machine, but we had to like label table numbers, we had to figure out how to use the cash register, we had to prep and cook all the food, we had to figure out how to do all this stuff. And I never even had an Instagram at that point, so I had to figure out how to use Instagram and make social media posts and talk to customers. And every system that exists in a restaurant, we had none of it. It was just off the top of my head, this is what I think we need. And then every time a problem occurred, it was more of a, how do we solve it? What system do we implement? And every single time that happened, it was just call everyone over. Whoever that problem was related to, from now on, do this. From now on, do this. People would come up to me and be like, "How do we answer the phone?" And or how do we take reservations? Or what time do we close? And I'll just like stand there and think for like 3 seconds, and then just blurt out an answer. And then it was like, do this, and then yeah, that's basically how you open a restaurant. You start with absolute crap, and then every time something happens, you fix it. Because to create a good restaurant is not to be exceptional at something and be crappy at a bunch of other things. It's not to be outwardly good, it's about not being bad. Because if you avoid losing indefinitely, by default, you become the winner. So every time something happened that was wrong or made somebody unhappy or anything negative, my main thing was just fix it and it's fine. And like, you send out raw chicken, what do you do to prevent raw chicken from getting sent out? The food is slow, how do you make the food faster? The thing was bland, how do you make it not bland? The food is cold, how do you make it hot? How do you make sure it stays hot? So it's all these, a restaurant is basically a list of really, really long problems that what makes a good chef is that you have the correct answer more often than not. Like, if this chef had 100 out of 100 correct answers, and then this one had 80 out of 100, by default, the one who has the more right answers is the better chef, I would say. It's not about being more, I mean, creativity is important and all that, but in terms of the function of a restaurant, the most important thing is to do the basics and do the logical thing. And you're not gonna make every customer happy all the time, but yeah, you do what you can to please the most amount of guests proportionately, because not everything is black and white. There's going to be gray areas where if you do this many people will be happy and this many people will be sad. If you don't do it, this many people will be happy, this many people will be sad. It's not always that, like, obviously when there are things that make everyone happier because the food is faster or the waters get filled some more, those are black and white. But then once you do all the black and white things, you're left with these gray areas where it's not so easy to make a correct decision. And then at that point, because the black and white things you do obviously, but then the gray things you have to think like, do I make 60% people happy for 40% of people unhappy? But then you have to weigh it, how happy and how sad, and then you have to see, like, is it worth it? Because if let's say the ratio is 90% happy, 10% sad, but you really make them like hate you guys, the 10%, it's probably not worth it. Whereas like if it's a slight sadness for a great amount of happiness, that's a good thing to do. And it's not just in a restaurant, that's just life in general, to create more happiness rather than sadness. That should be 10 minutes.